Tonight's story begins in a distant forgotten age. Settle in, and let history slowly fade you into sleep. This is boring history for sleep. Relax, and step gently into the ancient world. Tonight, history becomes calm, quiet, and sleepy. Let the past carry you softly into sleep. In tonight's slow and peaceful history story, the stars are still resting over the land of ancient Egypt. The night air has not fully released its coolness yet. The world is quiet in these moments before dawn. Darkness still lies across the earth, soft and blue beneath the fading stars. Far away, the waters of the Nile move slowly through the sleeping land. The river does not hurry. It never seems to hurry. It moves through reeds and soft mud banks and dark reflections of trees. Gentle waves touch the shore and disappear again. Small sounds rise from insects hidden near the water. Somewhere in the distance, a bird shifts in its sleep. The world feels heavy and still. Rows of mud brick homes rest quietly beside narrow dusty roads. Their flat roofs hold the coolness of the night. Their walls, built from earth and straw, stand close together beneath the stars. Most people are still asleep. Inside these homes, families rest close together beneath woven blankets and simple mats laid over hard floors. Children sleep beside parents. Brothers sleep beside brothers. Sisters sleep beside sisters. The rooms are small. The air is warm even before sunrise. The scent of dust, bread, smoke, and dry earth fills the still darkness. And among these sleeping families is a child. Just an ordinary child. Not a prince. Not a noble. Not a future ruler whose name will be carved into stone. Just a child whose life was decided long before he learned to walk. Long before he spoke his first words. Long before he understood what work meant. Because in many ancient places, childhood did not belong to children for very long. A child was born into a family, but often also born into a task. Born into labor. Born into expectation. Born into routine. Life was not usually shaped around dreams or personal wishes. Life was shaped around survival. Around bread. Around water. Around fields. Around carrying stones. Around making tools. Around serving households. Around helping families continue another day. The stars slowly fade. Dark blue skies begin changing into pale gray. Morning approaches quietly. Inside one mud brick home, a mother opens her eyes before anyone else. She rises slowly. Her feet touch the cool stone floor. She moves carefully through the room so she does not wake the others. Outside, the world remains silent. She kneels near a small cooking place and begins preparing the first work of the day. Even before the sun rises, work has already begun. Small movements. Quiet sounds. Hands reaching for clay jars. Hands touching grain. Hands arranging firewood. Soon a small flame appears. Then soft smoke. The smell of warmth enters the room. Bread must be prepared. Bread always waits for someone. There is grain to grind. There is dough to shape. There is water to carry. Life moves quietly, but it never fully stops. Near the wall, the child still sleeps. His breathing rises and falls slowly. His face still carries softness. Still carries sleep. Still carries the peaceful look that belongs only to children. But the morning will ask something from him. Morning always asks something. Outside, dawn slowly arrives. The eastern sky grows lighter. Warm colors spread gently above the horizon. The Nile catches faint light across its surface. Palm trees stand silently along the riverbanks. Soon footsteps begin appearing on dusty roads. A man carrying tools walks toward fields. Another carries fishing nets over his shoulder. Someone else leads a donkey through the quiet streets. The city slowly wakes. The village slowly wakes. Ancient Egypt stretches and rises beneath the coming sun. Inside the home, the child begins waking. Slowly. His eyes open. For a few moments he simply lies still. Perhaps he hears the sounds around him. The quiet crackling of fire. The movement of sandals against stone. The soft voices of family members speaking in low morning tones. For a moment there is still comfort. Still warmth. Still sleep. Then routine begins. Children often learned very early that mornings belong to work. Not tomorrow. Not later. Not when they became adults. Now. Many children worked beside parents almost as soon as they could understand simple instructions. Very small tasks at first. Carry this. Bring water. Hold this basket. Watch the animals. Follow closely. Stay near. Learn. Always learn. Because learning often meant preparing for years that waited ahead. Years of labor. Years of repetition. Years of early mornings beneath the Egyptian sun. The child sits up. He rubs sleep from his eyes. The room is brighter now. Sunlight slowly enters through small openings near the walls. Dust floats gently through narrow beams of light. Breakfast is simple. Flat bread. Perhaps onions. Perhaps dates. Maybe beer mixed with water, weak and common even for children because clean drinking water was not always easy to keep fresh. The meal is small. Enough to begin the day. Not enough to feel full for long. Outside, sunlight spreads across the land. The desert beyond the river begins warming quickly. Soon heat will rise from stone roads and mud walls. Soon air itself will feel heavy. Soon sweat will gather on workers carrying baskets and tools. But morning still feels gentle. Morning still feels soft. The child steps outside. Sandals touch cool ground. The road beneath his feet is dusty and uneven. People move around him. Workers. Mothers. Farmers. Merchants. Servants. Children. Many children. Some carrying baskets. Some carrying water jars. Some following fathers toward workshops. Some following mothers toward homes where service work waits. Their faces still hold traces of sleep. Yet they walk. Slowly. Quietly. Because work has already begun. And childhood here moves differently. It moves beside labor. Beside routine. Beside expectation. A boy born to fishermen might learn the river. A boy born to builders might learn stone. A boy born to farmers might learn soil. A child born into a servant family might learn obedience before reading. Skills often traveled through generations like rivers flowing through familiar land. Parents taught children because children would one day continue the same work. Life moved in circles. Slow circles. Steady circles. The child walks beside his father now. His small legs move quickly to keep up. His father's steps are longer. More tired. More practiced. Hands rough from years beneath the sun. Hands marked by labor. They move through narrow streets where workshops are opening. Already sounds begin rising into morning air. Stone striking stone. Wood being cut. Voices calling softly. Animals moving. The smell of baking bread drifts through the streets. Smoke rises slowly toward the brightening sky. Nearby, workers shape clay into pots. Others bend over tables cutting wood. Others carry heavy baskets filled with grain. The child watches everything. Children always watched. Watching was learning. Learning was preparing. Preparing meant survival. And somewhere deep inside, perhaps without words, children slowly understood something. Life was not waiting far ahead. Life had already begun. The sun rises higher. Its warmth touches rooftops. Touches roads. Touches shoulders. Touches tired faces beginning another day. And the child keeps walking beside his father through the awakening world of ancient Egypt, while the quiet river moves beside them both, slowly carrying morning forward. The road stretches ahead beneath growing sunlight. Dust rises softly beneath sandals and settles again. Small footprints mix with larger ones across the earth. Donkeys pass slowly carrying sacks of grain and bundles of reeds. Men walk with tools resting over their shoulders. Women carry baskets balanced carefully upon their heads. Morning has fully opened now, and the world moves with the quiet purpose of another ordinary day. The child stays close beside his father. He has learned to walk near enough to hear instructions, near enough not to disappear into crowded streets. Ancient towns and villages could feel busy even in gentle hours. Voices drip through the air. Someone calls out to a friend. Someone laughs softly. Someone asks the price of fish. The sounds are never loud enough to become chaos. Instead they rise and fall like the movement of the Nile itself. Everything seems to flow. Everything seems to continue. Soon they leave the tighter streets and move toward open land where fields spread beside the river. Here the air feels different. It carries moisture from the water and the scent of damp earth. The Nile has given life to this place for longer than anyone living can remember. The river has always arrived. The river has always left. It rises and falls through seasons, leaving behind dark rich soil where crops can grow. Farmers know its moods. Children learn them too. They learn where water gathers. They learn where reeds grow thick. They learn where the mud becomes deep enough to pull at sandals. The child looks toward the fields. Morning light lies across them in soft gold colors. Workers already bend over rows of young plants. Some move slowly through wet ground. Others carry tools made from wood and stone. A few lead animals through narrow paths. Everything happens with patience. There are no quick movements. No rushing. The heat itself seems to slow people. Even before noon arrives, warmth begins settling over shoulders and backs. By midday, it will become heavier. By afternoon, it will press down like an invisible blanket. But for now the air still carries a little kindness. The father stops near a small area beside the fields. Nearby sits a pile of tools and baskets. The child already knows what happens next. He does not ask. Children often did not ask many questions about work. The rhythm of family life simply carried them forward. Days repeated themselves so often that explanations became unnecessary. Take the basket. Bring water. Carry grain. Watch carefully. Stay close. The child bends and lifts a small basket. It feels heavy. Not impossibly heavy. Just heavy enough that his arms notice it. Heavy enough to remind him that childhood hands were learning adult work. He walks carefully across the uneven ground. His father continues nearby, moving with quiet concentration. Sweat already gathers along his neck. Years of labor have shaped his body into something built for endurance. His movements waste little energy. He knows how to lift without struggling. Knows when to pause. Knows how long the day can become if strength disappears too early. Children watched these things too. Not through lessons written on papyrus. Not through speeches. They learned through eyes and memory. They learned through repetition. They learned by standing beside tired adults beneath the sun. Hours pass slowly. Very slowly. The sun climbs higher. Birds move over the river. Wind drifts gently through reeds. Sometimes the child looks toward the water. The Nile seems peaceful from here. Small fishing boats move quietly across its surface. Their shapes drift through sunlight like dark shadows. Men cast nets into the water and wait. Fishing itself carried its own routines. Children born into fishing families often began helping early. At first they untangled ropes or carried small tools. Later they learned the river itself. The river could be calm. The river could be dangerous. The river could feed families. The river decided many things. Some children spent mornings pushing small boats into shallow water. Some repaired nets with tiny careful fingers. Some sat beside fathers watching water ripple around reeds. And little by little, the work settled into them. Not because they chose it. Because life placed it gently into their hands. The child wipes sweat from his forehead. His arms ache slightly now. Nothing severe. Just tiredness. The simple tiredness that arrives after carrying things again and again beneath growing heat. He sits briefly beside a low stone wall. Nearby, workers rest for a few moments. No one speaks much. Morning labor creates a quiet kind of exhaustion. Breathing slows. Hands relax. Faces turn toward shade where little shade exists. Someone drinks water. Someone closes tired eyes for a moment. Someone stretches sore shoulders. Then slowly they rise again. Work continues. The day always continues. Farther away, along another dusty path, other children walk toward workshops. The workshops are different from the fields. Different sounds lie there. Different smells. Different rhythms. Inside crowded workspaces, the air can feel warm and heavy long before midday arrives. Wood dust floats through sunlight. Clay dries on rough hands. Stone chips scatter across floors. The sounds of tools become part of daily life. Tap. Scrape. Cut. Shape. Repeat. Again and again. Some children spent years inside these places. Learning trades. Learning patience. Learning precision. A child helping a potter might begin with simple things. Carrying clay. Bringing water. Sweeping floors. Watching spinning wheels turn beneath practiced hands. Days became months. Months became years. Little by little small tasks became larger ones. The child who once carried clay might eventually shape it. The child who once watched might eventually teach another child. Life moved quietly like that. Small changes happening so slowly they almost disappeared. Nearby another group of children walks toward larger buildings where scribes work. These children live differently. Not easier. Simply differently. Some children trained as scribes spent long hours sitting cross-legged beside teachers, copying symbols onto papyrus or broken pottery pieces used for practice. Their hands learned careful movement. Their eyes learned patience. Writing itself required time. Required repetition. Required discipline. Many children found it tiring. Long hours of copying symbols beneath warm rooms and fading daylight could leave backs aching and fingers sore. Even learning carried its own weight. Even learning was labor. The sun rises higher still. Now heat settles over everything. Stone warms beneath feet. Walls release warmth into narrow streets. Air grows still. Workers move more slowly. Even animals seem quieter. The child stands again. His father calls softly. There is more to carry. Always more. Another basket. Another trip. Another task waiting nearby. The child lifts it. His small arms tighten. His feet move carefully through dust and earth. He does not complain. Many children did not. Not because they never felt tired. Not because they never wanted rest. But because this world had taught them early that work arrived each morning just as surely as sunlight arrived over the Nile. And somewhere beyond the fields, beyond the roads and workshops and homes, the river keeps moving beside the land. Slow water beneath warm skies. Soft waves touching muddy banks. Quiet movement beneath endless light. Always moving. Always continuing. The sun continues its slow climb across the sky. Morning has gently drifted toward midday now. Shadows have grown shorter. The cool softness that arrived before dawn has quietly disappeared. Warm air hangs over the fields and roads, and the earth beneath bare feet and sandals has begun holding the heat. The child feels it now. The warmth on his shoulders. The warmth on his face. The warmth rising back up from the ground itself. Ancient Egypt could be beautiful in ways that felt quiet and endless. The river shimmered beneath sunlight. Palm trees leaned softly near the water. Distant birds crossed pale skies. But beauty and labor often lived beside one another. The same sun that painted gold across the Nile also pressed heavily upon workers in the fields. The same warm wind that carried the scent of reeds also carried dust into tired eyes. The child walks beside rows of crops. Sweat runs slowly down the side of his face. His feet have become dusty now. Fine layers of pale earth cover his sandals and cling to his legs. Nearby his father works steadily. There is something almost rhythmic in the movements of experienced workers. Lift. Step. Place. Turn. Lift again. Years shape people into routine. Years teach the body where energy should be saved. Years teach hands how to move without thinking. The child watches these movements often. Without realizing it, he has already begun memorizing them. Children absorb the world around them quietly. They learn not only through instruction, but through endless observation. A father bends a certain way. A mother carries water a certain way. An older brother balances grain upon his shoulder a certain way. Little by little these motions settle into memory. And then one day, without noticing when it happened, the child begins moving in the same way. The heat deepens. Even the wind feels warm now. Insects hum softly near patches of water. Farther along the riverbank, fishermen pull narrow boats toward shore. Their work began long ago, before sunrise painted colors across the sky. Fishing could be long and patient work. Hours of waiting. Hours of watching water. Hours beneath the same unbroken sun. A young boy helping fishermen might spend much of the day beside the river itself. He might carry woven baskets smelling of wet reeds and fresh fish. He might untangle rough nets while sitting in shallow shade. His fingers would slowly learn the knots and loops that older hands tied without effort. The river became teacher as much as workplace. Children learned where fish gathered. They learned how water changed after flooding seasons. They learned how reeds bent when wind shifted. They learned the quiet language of the Nile. The child pauses again. His father notices. Not with anger. Not with surprise. Simply with understanding. Tiredness is ordinary here. Everyone knows tiredness. Everyone carries it. His father gestures toward a place beneath a tree near the edge of the field. The shade is small. Only a little island of coolness resting upon warm earth. Still, it feels welcoming. The child walks there and sits. Around him other workers have gathered. Some sit quietly. Some drink water from clay containers. Some eat small pieces of bread saved from earlier. No one speaks very loudly. The heat itself seems to soften voices. The child takes a bite of bread. It is simple. Dry in places. Still warm from the morning baking. He chews slowly. Nearby someone peels onions. Nearby someone shares dates. Nearby someone leans back against the tree and closes tired eyes. The world feels slower now. Very slow. Heat often does that. Heat stretches time. Minutes begin feeling longer. Movements become smaller. Even thoughts seem softer. Across the fields the air itself seems to dance above the earth. Waves of warmth blur distant shapes. Workers move like shadows beneath bright light. The child watches them. His eyes become heavy for a moment. Not from sleep exactly. More from the quiet pull of exhaustion. Ancient children often knew this feeling well. Bodies growing while also working. Small muscles becoming tired long before the day had finished. Long hours beneath sun and dust. Long hours carrying things too heavy for comfort. Not impossible burdens. Just endless ones. Small burdens repeated again and again. Morning after morning. Season after season. Sometimes children became sick. Sometimes exhaustion settled deep into bones. The world of labor could be difficult even without dramatic hardship. A cough that stayed too long. A fever beneath summer heat. An aching back. Sore feet. Small cuts across hands. Dust carried by wind into eyes and lungs. Life moved close beside discomfort. Yet people continued. Families continued. Children continued. Nearby a woman walks slowly along the road carrying water jars. Her shoulders lean slightly beneath their weight. Beside her walks a young girl. Perhaps her daughter. The girl carries a smaller jar. Not large enough to match her mother's burden. Just large enough to teach. Just large enough to prepare. The child watches them pass. He understands without words. Children often entered work gradually. A little more one year. A little more the next. No single morning announced the change. No special day arrived saying childhood had ended. Instead it slipped away quietly. Like cool dawn air disappearing beneath sunlight. Slowly. Almost unnoticed. The child finishes eating. Nearby his father stands again. Others rise too. Resting moments are gentle but brief. The fields still wait. The work still waits. The sun has not finished crossing the sky. He stands and brushes dust from his legs. His body feels heavier now. Not from sadness. Simply from labor. Simple honest tiredness. Around him sandals scrape against dry ground. Workers return to fields. Voices remain low and calm. The day continues moving forward. Above them the sky stretches endlessly. Blue and quiet. Far away birds circle over the river. The Nile continues flowing beside villages and farms and workshops. The Nile watches children become workers. Watches workers become old. Watches generations pass quietly along its shores. And beneath the endless warmth of the afternoon sun, the child lifts another basket into his arms and follows his father once more through the slow rhythm of ancient life. The afternoon settles over the land like a warm blanket that has rested too long beneath the sun. The sky above is wide and pale now. Brightness fills everything. The earth glows softly beneath the heavy light. Dusty roads stretch into the distance, their edges wavering beneath gentle waves of heat. The child walks beside his father once more. The basket in his hands feels heavier than it did in the morning. Not because it carries more. Because his arms have grown tired. Because the day itself has weight. Afternoon always seems to carry a different feeling from morning. Morning still holds possibility. Morning still feels fresh and untouched. But afternoon feels used. The hours behind it have already taken something. A little strength. A little energy. A little softness from muscles and feet. The child notices these things without putting them into words. Children often do. They understand tiredness long before they understand many other parts of life. Nearby, workers continue moving through the fields. Their clothes cling lightly to their skin. Sweat darkens fabric. Faces shine beneath the sunlight. No one rushes. The heat does not allow rushing. Instead there is a quiet pace. Steady movements. Patient movements. Movements shaped by long years beneath Egyptian skies. A man bends and lifts grain. Another ties bundles together. Someone wipes his forehead with the back of his hand. Someone stretches an aching shoulder. Then work begins again. And again. And again. The child follows his father toward the riverbank. The Nile waits nearby, moving with the same calm rhythm it carried in the morning. Its waters look inviting now. Cooler than the fields. Cooler than the roads. Cooler than the air itself. Small boats drift close to shore. Their narrow shapes rock gently against the water. A fisherman stands knee-deep near the river's edge. His net hangs from his hands in careful folds. Beside him stands a boy. Perhaps only a little older than the child. The boy watches closely. Very closely. The fisherman lifts the net. His movements are smooth from years of practice. The net rises. Turns. Opens like a soft circle in the air. Then falls. Water splashes quietly. Ripples spread outward across the river. The boy studies everything. The angle of the arms. The timing. The patience. One day he will do the same. Not suddenly. Not all at once. Only little by little. The child watches for a moment longer. Then he continues walking. Along the riverbank reeds sway gently beneath the warm wind. Small insects drift above the water. White birds stand motionless in shallow places waiting for movement beneath the surface. The world feels sleepy now. Not silent. Just slower. Even voices seem softer beneath afternoon heat. Farther along the road, merchants move through the town. Some guide donkeys carrying woven baskets. Some carry jars. Some carry cloth. Trade never fully stops. Goods travel slowly across Egypt through roads and rivers and crowded markets. And children often walk these roads too. Some helped parents sell grain. Some carried small items from place to place. Some spent long days near market stalls listening to endless conversations between buyers and sellers. The child remembers visiting markets before. He remembers smells more than anything. Fresh bread, fish, clay, smoke, warm animals, dry reeds, spices, dust. Ancient markets carried many scents together. Warm air mixed everything into one drifting cloud. He remembers hearing voices from every direction. Low voices, tired voices, friendly voices. People discussing grain. People discussing tools. People discussing tomorrow's work. Life itself moved through these places. But even there, children often remained close to responsibility. Even there they carried things, watched things, learned things. The child reaches a shaded area beside a low wall. His father pauses. For a moment neither speaks. The wind moves softly around them. Palm leaves rustle overhead. The shade feels cool against tired skin. Not truly cool. Just cooler. Enough to notice. Enough to welcome. The child sits down slowly. His legs feel heavy now. The pleasant heaviness of a body that has worked for many hours. Nearby, another child sits beside his mother. He cannot be more than 7 or 8 years old. Dust covers his feet. His eyes look sleepy. His shoulders lean gently against her side. For a few moments he closes his eyes. Not fully asleep. Just resting. Just borrowing a little stillness from the afternoon. His mother brushes dust from his hair. Then her hand rests quietly upon his shoulder. Simple moments like this lived quietly inside hard days. Small kindnesses. Small pauses. Small comforts. A hand resting on a shoulder. A shared piece of bread. A few moments beneath shade. Life in ancient times could ask much from people. But warmth still existed. Gentleness still existed. Families still found ways to care for one another between long hours of labor. The child looks out toward the river. The sunlight upon the water has changed now. Morning light had felt soft. Afternoon light feels thicker somehow. Richer. Golden reflections move across the Nile in slow patterns. The river seems endless. Ancient children likely watched it often. Perhaps while carrying water. Perhaps while helping families wash clothes. Perhaps while sitting quietly after long work. Watching the river meant watching something larger than yourself. Something older than yourself. The Nile had flowed before parents were born. Before grandparents were born. Before anyone could remember. It simply continued. Patient and quiet. The wind shifts slightly. The child takes a slow breath. The scent of wet reeds drifts through the air. Somewhere nearby bread is baking again. Evening is still far away. There are still hours left in the day. Still work waiting. Still roads to walk. Still baskets to carry. But sunlight has begun changing in ways only careful eyes notice. Its brightness has softened just a little. Its edges have become gentler. And slowly, very slowly, the ancient day continues carrying everyone forward beneath warm skies and beside quiet water. The afternoon slowly drifts onward. The sun still hangs above the land, but its brightness has begun softening in quiet and almost invisible ways. Long hours have passed since the child first opened his eyes in the darkness before dawn. Long hours have passed since bread warmed over morning fire and footsteps first appeared on dusty roads. Now the day feels older. The light feels older too. The child rises from the shaded place beside the wall. His legs feel stiff for a moment. He stretches without thinking. Nearby his father adjusts the cloth resting around his shoulders and begins walking again. There is no need for many words. Much of ancient work happened in silence or in simple instructions spoken softly between tasks. The child follows. His sandals scrape lightly against dry ground. Dust rises and settles around his feet. Along the fields, workers continue their slow movements beneath the sky. The air still carries warmth, but something gentle has begun arriving beneath it. Very faintly, almost unnoticed, the day has started turning toward evening. Not yet. But soon. The child walks beside narrow paths cut through farmland. Green plants move gently beneath the wind. Water channels carry river water through the earth, guiding life toward crops that depend upon it. Ancient Egypt was a land of routines built around water. The Nile decided many things. It decided planting. It decided harvest. It decided seasons of work. Families lived beside its rhythms year after year. Children learned those rhythms long before they understood time itself. They knew when flood waters came. They knew when fields changed. They knew when birds returned. They knew when mornings grew cooler or warmer. Life moved in circles around them. Quiet circles. Reliable circles. Ahead, several workers guide animals through the fields. The animals move slowly beneath the heat. They seem almost sleepy. Their footsteps press into soft earth. A young boy walks beside them carrying a small stick. He looks tired. His shoulders lean slightly forward. His face glistens beneath sunlight. Still, he continues walking. Children often spent many hours watching animals. Some guided goats. Some watched sheep. Some followed cattle across open land. Hours could pass with very little happening at all. Long quiet hours beneath wide skies. Long quiet hours listening to wind moving through grass. Long quiet hours watching clouds drift slowly overhead. Perhaps sometimes children like these moments. Moments away from crowded workshops and busy streets. Moments where only wind and birds and distant water filled the world. The child glances toward the boy and then continues walking. Farther ahead, the road bends toward a workshop area near the village. The sounds reach him before the buildings do. Stone tapping against stone. Wood scraping. Clay being shaped. Soft voices moving through open doorways. The child has visited these places before. The workshops feel different from the open fields. Inside them the air often sits still. Warmth gathers beneath roofs. Dust hangs in narrow beams of sunlight. People sit or stand close together working carefully with practiced hands. The child passes a potter shaping clay. The spinning wheel turns slowly. Steady hands guide wet earth into form. Round walls rise beneath gentle pressure. The clay glistens in the light. Nearby another worker places finished pots in careful rows. Beside him stands a young girl carrying water. Her steps are careful. Very careful. She holds the jar tightly with both hands. The jar looks large against her small body. But she carries it steadily. Perhaps she has done it many times before. Perhaps she began with smaller jars. Perhaps one day she will carry larger ones without effort. Work often arrived this way. Not all at once. Not suddenly. Just a little more. Then a little more again. The child watches the spinning wheel for a moment. Round and round it turns. Smooth and quiet. Something about it feels calming. Its movement never rushes. Never stumbles. It simply continues. The same motion over and over. The same rhythm. Ancient life itself often felt that way. Days repeated. Seasons repeated. Tasks repeated. Children grew within repetition. Morning work. Afternoon work. Evening rest. Morning work again. Nearby, inside another workshop, scribes sit cross-legged upon mats. The room is quieter. Hands move carefully over writing surfaces. Brushes touch papyrus. Eyes focus on symbols and lines. Young students sit among them. Their backs are straight. Their expression serious. Learning to become a scribe required patience. Long patience. Symbols had to be remembered. Shapes had to be copied. Mistakes had to be corrected. Children studying there also carried tiredness. Just a different kind. Their fingers became sore. Their backs ached. Their eyes grew heavy. Work wore many faces. The child continues beside his father. The village slowly moves around them. Smoke rises from cooking fires beginning to awaken again. Women prepare evening meals. Grain is ground. Bread dough is shaped. Clay ovens warm. The smell reaches the road. Warm bread. Smoke. Earth. Simple food waiting at the end of long labor. The child notices it immediately. His stomach notices it too. Hunger feels sharper now. The body remembers how many hours have passed. It remembers every step. Every lifted basket. Every moment beneath sunlight. Around him other workers begin moving toward home. Not all of them. Some still remain in fields. Some still remain in workshops. But slowly the rhythm changes. The world itself seems to exhale. Afternoon begins releasing its grip. The child looks westward. The sun sits lower now. Still bright. Still warm. But gentler. The light stretches farther across the land. Shadows slowly grow longer beside roads and walls and palm trees. And somewhere beyond the village, the Nile continues its endless journey through quiet Egypt, carrying soft reflections of evening light across its patient waters. The day leans gently toward evening now. The change happens slowly, in the quiet way that many things change in ancient life. No bell announces it. No voice calls out across the land. The sun simply lowers a little more. Shadows lengthen across roads and fields. The light softens around the edges. The child notices without stopping to think about it. Children often notice these things. Not by measuring time. Not by counting hours. But by feeling the world change around them. The heat pressing against his shoulders feels lighter now. The air moves a little more freely. A breeze passes through the fields and brushes against his face. It carries scents from many places at once. Warm earth. River water. Smoke rising from cooking fires. Fresh bread. Dry reeds. Dust. The smells drip together gently through the evening air. The child walks beside his father toward the village. Around them, people are beginning their slow return home after long work beneath the sun. Workers emerge from fields carrying tools across tired shoulders. Fishermen pull boats farther onto shore. Craftsmen step out from workshops and stretch aching backs. Voices remain low. No one has much energy left for loud conversation. The day has taken its share from everyone. Feet are sore. Hands are tired. Muscles ache quietly beneath skin warmed by sunlight. Still, there is comfort in returning home. Even simple homes. Even small homes. The child looks ahead and sees rows of mud brick walls catching the late sunlight. The buildings glow softly now. Golden light rests along their edges. Their rough surfaces seem smoother in evening light. Kinder somehow. Morning light wakes the world. Afternoon light presses upon it. But evening light forgives it. The child and his father enter the narrow streets again. Dust still covers the roads, but now long shadows stretch across them. Children move through the village carrying small bundles or jars. Some sit outside homes. Some lean against walls. Some simply rest. Their faces look sleepy. Their movements are slower. Even childhood itself seems tired by evening. Near one doorway, an older woman sits grinding grain. The stone wheel turns steadily beneath her hands. Round and round. Round and round. She has likely done this thousands of times. Perhaps tens of thousands. The sound is soft and rhythmic. Nearby, a younger girl watches carefully. The girl sits quietly beside her. Watching. Learning. Ancient childhood often looked like this. Watching. Helping. Remembering. Hands learned before words fully did. Children spent years observing movements repeated every day. The way dough was shaped. The way tools were held. The way baskets were balanced. The way work was done. Skills passed from one person to another not through books resting on shelves, but through eyes and memory. The child continues walking. He passes an open courtyard where bread bakes inside clay ovens. Warm air spills outward carrying rich smells into the street. Several women move around the ovens with practiced ease. Hands press dough flat. Hands place loaves carefully inside. Hands remove finished bread and set it aside. Nearby, children wait. Some sit quietly. Some stand watching. Some lean against walls while rubbing tired eyes. Their work may be ending for the day, but hunger has arrived to replace it. The child feels it too. His stomach feels empty now. Not painfully empty. Just the steady hunger that follows long labor. Simple food will taste good tonight. Very good. Bread. Perhaps onions. Perhaps lentils. Perhaps fish if the river has been generous. Simple meals often felt larger after hard work. The body welcomed whatever arrived. As they walk farther through the village, the child hears quieter sounds beginning to replace the sounds of labor. The sharp tapping of tools becomes less common. Voices become softer. Animals settle. Birds move toward resting places. The world slowly changes from work toward rest. Slowly. Very slowly. Near the edge of the village, the child notices another boy sitting beside a wall. The boy's head rests against warm brick. His eyes are nearly closed. Beside him lies a small bundle of reeds tied together. Perhaps he spent the day gathering them. Perhaps he carried water. Perhaps he helped in fields. The child looks at him only for a moment. He does not need to ask. Tiredness recognizes tiredness. The boy opens his eyes briefly and looks back. Neither speaks. Then both continue on with their evenings. Ahead, the Nile catches the lowering sun. The river looks different now. Morning had covered it with pale silver. Afternoon had turned it bright and shimmering. But evening paints it with soft gold. Gentle colors drift across the moving water. The river seems almost sleepy itself. Quiet waves touch the shore. Reeds sway lightly in the wind. A bird glides low across the surface and disappears toward distant trees. The child slows his steps for a moment. He watches the river. Maybe he has done this many times before. Maybe every evening feels familiar. Still, there is something comforting about watching water continue its endless journey. No matter how long the day becomes, the Nile keeps moving. No matter how tired people grow, the Nile keeps moving. Parents grow old. Children grow into workers. Workers become grandparents. Generations pass. Yet the river continues beside them all. Steady. Patient. Quiet. And with tired feet carrying dust from a long day, the child follows his father toward home while the evening sky slowly deepens above ancient Egypt. The evening sky slowly changes above the village. The blue of the day begins fading into softer colors now. Gold stretches across the horizon. Pale orange settles near the distant desert. Light rests gently upon rooftops and walls before slowly beginning to slip away. The child walks beside his father through narrow streets that feel different now than they did in the morning. Morning streets had carried purpose. Morning streets had carried beginnings. Feet moving toward fields. Voices starting the day. Doors opening. Smoke rising. But evening streets carry return. They carry tired shoulders. Slower footsteps. Quiet conversations after long work. The child feels the difference. His body feels it too. His arms no longer carry baskets. Still, they feel heavy. His legs continue walking, but tiredness has settled into them now like warm sand slowly filling a jar. The village around him seems softer. The heat of the day has loosened its grip. Wind moves more freely between homes. It slips through narrow spaces between mud brick walls and drifts gently across faces still warm from sunlight. The child closes his eyes for just a moment as the breeze touches him. It feels good. Very good. Even small comforts become larger after long work. A cool breeze. Shade. Water. Rest. Simple things sometimes become the most welcome things. Nearby, people sit outside their homes. Many ancient homes felt warmer inside after long hours of sunlight pressing against mud brick walls. Evening often invited people outdoors while the air slowly cooled. Families gather near doorways. Some sit on woven mats. Some sit directly upon low stone steps. Some simply stand quietly together. Voices drift gently through the village. Not loud. Not hurried. Soft evening voices. Voices speaking about grain and weather and tomorrow. Voices asking whether enough fish were caught. Voices discussing repairs that still need attention. Voices carrying ordinary life through the cooling air. The child watches these small scenes as he passes. A woman combs dust from her daughter's hair. An old man stretches tired knees. A young boy drinks slowly from a clay cup. A mother rocks a small child whose eyes are already growing heavy. Life continues moving in these gentle little moments. No grand events. No great ceremonies. Just people returning home after another day beneath the Egyptian sun. Ahead, smoke rises from cooking fires. The scent reaches him before the houses do. Bread again. Warm bread. The smell seems richer now than earlier. Hunger has grown stronger. Nearby he smells onions cooking. Nearby another scent drifts through the air. Fish. Perhaps caught from the Nile earlier that day. Perhaps cleaned and prepared while daylight slowly faded. His stomach tightens gently. Not painfully. Just with anticipation. The body remembers. The body always remembers food after long labor. The child and his father finally reach their home. The mud brick walls stand quiet beneath the evening light. Nothing grand waits there. No large rooms. No polished floors. No soft beds. Just familiar walls. Familiar smells. Familiar sounds. But familiar things often carry comfort. The child steps inside. The room feels dim after bright sunlight. At first his eyes take a moment to adjust. Small beams of evening light enter through openings in the walls. Dust drifts through them slowly. The air smells of bread and smoke and earth. His mother moves near the cooking place. Nearby other family members sit waiting. The child lowers himself onto the floor beside them. His body seems grateful simply to stop moving. He stretches his legs. His feet feel sore now. Not sharply sore. Just worn from the day. Ancient feet walked many roads. Ancient feet crossed fields and stone and dust again and again. The child rubs one ankle gently. Nearby his father sits with a quiet breath escaping his chest. Not a sigh exactly. More like the sound of a body finally resting. The room feels peaceful. Outside, voices continue drifting through the village. Someone laughs softly. Someone calls for a child still outside. A donkey shifts somewhere nearby. Then quiet returns again. Food is placed before the family. Simple food. Bread. Perhaps lentils. Perhaps vegetables. Perhaps fish if fortune has been kind. No one speaks very much at first. Hunger often makes meals quiet. Hands reach slowly. Bread is torn apart. Water is passed. People eat. The child notices how good simple food tastes tonight. Perhaps it tastes better because of the work. Perhaps tiredness itself changes things. Even plain bread can feel rich after a long day. Even ordinary meals can feel comforting. As he eats, the child begins feeling another sensation now. A different heaviness. Not in his arms. Not in his legs. Behind his eyes. Sleepiness has begun arriving. Slowly. Very slowly. The kind that enters quietly. The kind that does not announce itself. The day has asked many things from him. Walking. Watching. Carrying. Learning. Working. Now evening begins asking something different. Rest. Outside, the last sunlight slowly slips away from the walls of the village. Above the Nile, colors fade softly into deepening blue. The river continues moving beneath the first small stars beginning to appear in the sky. And inside the quiet mud brick home, the child sits beside his family while night slowly approaches ancient Egypt once more. Night moves gently across the land now. It does not arrive all at once. It never seems to. Instead it slips slowly over the fields and roads and riverbanks. The last traces of warm gold fade from the horizon. Blue deepens into darker blue. Shadows stretch together until they become one quiet blanket resting over the earth. Outside the home, the village grows calmer. The dusty roads that carried workers through the day begin emptying now. Footsteps become fewer. Voices become softer. The sounds of labor disappear one by one. No more stone striking stone. No more cutting wood. No more baskets being lifted. No more calls drifting from distant fields. The work of the day folds itself away. For now. The child sits quietly beside his family. His meal has nearly finished. His stomach feels pleasantly full in the simple way that follows long labor and warm food. Not heavy. Not overflowing. Just content. His body feels tired all the way through now. Tired arms. Tired legs. Tired feet. Even his hands feel tired. Ancient work often reached every part of the body. Even small tasks, repeated many times, slowly collected themselves through the day. Carry. Lift. Walk. Watch. Bring. Return. Again and again. The body remembered each movement. Nearby, a small oil lamp flickers softly. Its light touches the walls gently. Small shadows move across the room. The mud brick walls seem warmer beneath firelight. Softer somehow. The hard edges of the day fade in candlelight and shadow. The child watches the flame dance for a moment. Ancient nights often lived by the light of small flames. No bright lamps filled rooms. No large lights pushed darkness away. Darkness remained close. Always close. Only little circles of warm light rested against it. Outside, the stars have begun appearing overhead. First one. Then another. Then many more. Ancient skies often looked deeper than many people today could imagine. No distant glow covered the night. No bright streets reached toward the heavens. The stars stretched endlessly above rivers and deserts and villages. Thousands upon thousands of tiny lights resting quietly in darkness. Children probably looked at them often. Perhaps while sitting beside parents. Perhaps while lying upon rooftops where cooler night air moved gently across their faces. Perhaps while listening to old stories spoken in soft evening voices. The child stands slowly. His legs feel stiff again. He walks toward the doorway and steps outside. Night air touches his skin. Cooler now. Not cold. Just pleasantly cool after the long warmth of the day. He breathes deeply. The scent of cooking fires still lingers faintly in the air. So does dust. So does river water drifting from the Nile nearby. The village around him has grown quieter. Families sit together outside homes. Some speak softly. Some simply rest. Some children have already fallen asleep against mothers and fathers, their heads leaning heavily against shoulders after long days. The child sees another boy sitting outside nearby. The boy stares upward toward the stars. His eyes look heavy. Very heavy. Still, he watches the sky. Perhaps he too worked all day. Perhaps he carried water. Perhaps he gathered reeds. Perhaps he followed animals across open land beneath the sun. The child sits beside the doorway and looks upward too. Above him the sky feels endless. Stars scatter across it like grains of light. Some shine brighter than others. Some seem almost hidden. The Nile reflects tiny pieces of them upon its dark surface. Quiet water moving beneath quiet stars. The child does not know all the names of the stars. Perhaps no one around him does. But names are not always necessary. Sometimes people simply look. Simply watch. Simply feel the quiet of the night around them. Nearby his father steps outside too. Slowly lowering himself onto the ground beside the home. The day has settled into his body as well. His shoulders rest lower now. His breathing is slower. The child leans gently against him. No words are needed. Some moments ask for words. Others ask only for presence. For closeness. For quiet. Around them the village continues drifting toward sleep. Doors close softly. Voices fade. Cooking fires shrink into glowing embers. Even animals settle into silence. Only a few sounds remain now. Wind moving gently between homes. Soft insects near the river. Distant water touching the shore. The Nile itself seems quieter at night. Not because it stops. The Nile never stops. Only because the world around it becomes still enough to hear its quiet movement. The child blinks slowly. Then again. His eyes feel heavier. Much heavier now. The stars blur for a moment before becoming clear again. Sleep has almost arrived. The long day beneath the Egyptian sun has finally begun releasing him. And beneath endless stars and warm night air, beside mud brick homes and quiet river water, ancient Egypt slowly closes its eyes. Night settles more deeply across the village now. Darkness rests softly over the fields and roads like a quiet blanket spread across the land. The last voices have nearly faded away. The busy rhythm of daytime life has become distant, almost like a memory already drifting away. The child still sits beside his father outside the home. Above them, stars continue filling the sky. So many stars. Tiny lights stretching farther than the eye can comfortably follow. The child's eyelids lower slowly. Then rise again. Then lower once more. Sleep is patient. It does not rush. It simply waits nearby. But inside the village, not everyone has fully reached rest yet. Ancient life often began early, and because of that, much of life also settled early. Still, there were always small tasks waiting quietly at the edge of the day. Nearby, a woman gathers clay bowls and carries them inside. Across the road, someone folds woven mats. Someone else adds a few pieces of wood to a small cooking fire before letting it slowly fade. Even at the end of long labor, hands often found one last thing to do. One last movement. One last task. The child watches without really focusing. His tired eyes drift from one small scene to another. The world feels softer now. Edges seem less sharp in the darkness. Mud brick walls become shadows. Palm trees become darker shapes against the sky. The roads that carried people through the day now rest quietly beneath moonlight and stars. Far away near the riverbank, two fishermen still move beside the water. Only their shapes can be seen. Dark figures against silver reflections. Fishing sometimes continued into night hours. The river changed beneath darkness. Different sounds rose from it. Different movements. Different rhythms. The Nile had its own nighttime world. Gentle water touching reeds. Soft splashes from unseen fish. Insects humming close to the shore. Wind passing through river grass. Children who grew up beside the Nile probably learned these sounds early. The river spoke differently during each part of the day. Morning river. Afternoon river. Night river. Always familiar. Always changing. The child leans his head a little more heavily against his father. His father's arm rests quietly around his shoulders. Nearby another family sits outside their home. A mother brushes her fingers slowly through her daughter's hair. The little girl has already fallen asleep. Her head rests against her mother's side. Her breathing is deep and steady. The mother continues smoothing her hair gently, even though the child is sleeping now. Small acts of care remain awake even when the day is ending. Ancient lives could be filled with labor. Filled with dust. Filled with heat. Filled with tiredness. But people still found quiet ways to care for one another. A hand on a shoulder. A shared meal. A place beside someone at the end of the day. The child shifts slightly. His muscles still carry the memory of work. His legs remember the walking. His hands remember lifting baskets. His feet remember the dusty roads. Bodies remember things. Especially after repeating them day after day. Tomorrow morning, those same roads will wait again. The same fields. The same river. The same workshops. The same routines. Children raised for work often grew within repetition so complete that days blended softly together. Morning arrived. Work arrived. Evening arrived. Sleep arrived. Then morning returned once more. Not harshly. Not suddenly. Simply steadily. Like the river. Always moving forward. Always returning. A warm breeze drifts quietly through the village. It touches the child's face and moves through his hair. Somewhere nearby, a donkey shifts gently in its sleep. Somewhere farther away, a dog barks once and then becomes quiet again. The sounds are small. Soft sounds. Night sounds. The child opens his eyes one more time and looks toward the Nile. Moonlight rests upon the water now. Silver light moving across slow waves. The river seems almost dreamlike beneath the stars. Quiet. Ancient. Endless. His eyes begin closing again. This time they remain closed a little longer. Then longer still. The world around him continues moving quietly, but it begins feeling farther away now. Voices drift away. The river drifts away. The stars drift away. And while the warm night air moves gently through the sleeping village, the child slowly begins crossing into rest beside the quiet waters of ancient Egypt. The night deepens, but it does not feel heavy. It feels soft. Like fabric slowly laid across the world, one quiet layer at a time. The child is still outside the home, though his body now leans more fully into rest. His head rests against his father's arm. His breathing has slowed without him noticing. Each breath comes and goes with the calm rhythm that follows exhaustion. The village is almost fully asleep now. Only a few small movements remain. A door shifts quietly. A final ember glows and fades in a cooking fire. A distant footstep crosses packed earth and then disappears. Even the wind feels gentler now, as if it has lowered its voice for the night. Above everything, the sky stretches endlessly. Stars remain, steady and patient. They do not move quickly. They do not change in a way the eye can easily see. They simply exist, scattered across darkness like quiet thoughts spread through sleep. The Nile lies beneath them, moving as it always does. Even at night, even in deep stillness, the river continues its slow journey. Water slides past reeds and mud banks. Small ripples form and vanish without sound. The river never truly pauses, yet it never feels rushed either. It is movement without urgency. Flow without effort. The child's mind drifts between wakefulness and sleep. There is no sharp boundary anymore. Only softness. Only fading awareness. He feels the warmth of his father beside him. That warmth is familiar. It is steady. It is one of the simple comforts of life that does not need to be explained. Nearby, another child has fallen asleep completely, sitting upright against a doorway. His small body leans slightly to one side, but no one moves him yet. Sleep has claimed him where he sits, as it often does after long days. Inside the homes, people lie down on mats and woven bedding placed across cool floors. Rooms are small, and families often sleep close together, sharing warmth during the night. A mother lies beside her children. A father settles quietly near the wall. A grandmother adjusts a thin cloth over her shoulders. The sounds of breathing slowly fill each home. Soft. Even. Calm. Outside, the child finally lets his head rest fully. His thoughts become loose, no longer holding shape. He is no longer thinking about baskets or fields or water or walking. Those things drift away like dust carried by wind. What remains is only sensation. Warm air, Cool night breeze. The steady presence of his father. The distant sound of the river. And the sky above, so wide it feels almost endless even with closed eyes. Time itself seems to loosen. Minutes no longer feel like minutes. They become something softer. Something without edges. In ancient nights like this, people often fell asleep early. The day demanded much from the body, and the night offered only simple rest in return. There were no bright lights to extend waking hours. No long distractions to keep the mind active. When darkness came, life naturally slowed. So the world returned to stillness. The child's breathing deepens. Each breath is longer now. More relaxed. His body, which has carried him through fields and roads and workshops, finally begins to let go of the day's weight. Muscles loosen. Shoulders sink. Hands rest quietly. Even his feet, dusty and tired, no longer feel distant strain. Everything softens. Around him, the village is fully asleep now. Only the river remains awake in its own quiet way. The Nile continues sliding through darkness, reflecting faint light from the sky above. Sometimes a small fish breaks the surface. Sometimes reeds shift gently as water moves around them. These are small movements, almost unnoticeable, but they are always there. The river is never entirely still. Yet it always feels peaceful. The child's mind drifts again, briefly, as if floating between moments. He remembers the feeling of carrying a basket earlier in the day. The weight had felt real then. Important. Now, even that memory feels distant, like something that happened long ago rather than hours ago. He remembers the heat of the sun. The sound of stone tools in workshops. The sight of water in the fields. All of it softens now. Becoming part of the same quiet flow. Morning will come again. It always does. But for now, there is only night. Only rest. Only the slow breathing of a sleeping village beside an ancient river that has seen countless days come and go. The stars above remain unchanged. Patient lights in the dark. The child's eyes close fully now. No more opening. No more drifting between wakefulness and sleep. Only sleep remains. And as the village rests beneath the wide Egyptian sky, the river continues to move gently through the night, carrying silence forward into the hours before dawn. The night grows deeper still, in that quiet way where even darkness feels like it has layers. The village is now fully asleep. Not a sleeping that is sudden or dramatic, but a slow surrender that happened piece by piece through the evening. One home at a time. One body at a time. One tired breath at a time. Now there is only stillness. The child sleeps outside, close to his father, his body finally heavy in the way only deep rest can allow. His head rests without effort. His arms are loose at his sides. His breathing is steady and soft. The day has fully released him. Above, the sky feels larger in the night than it does in the day. Without sunlight, without heat, without movement, the world feels open in a different way. Stars seem closer even though they are far away. They do not hurry. They do not change. They simply remain. Over the river, moonlight spreads gently across the Nile. It moves with the water, never staying in one place for long. Each small wave carries a piece of light for a moment before passing it along. The river continues its journey through the sleeping land. Along its banks, reeds stand still. Boats rest pulled onto shore. Fishing nets hang in quiet bundles, waiting for morning hands. Everything that worked during the day now rests beside it. The fields are quiet too. Crops do not move. Animals are still. Paths that were full of footsteps are now empty, holding only the memory of movement. Somewhere far away, a single bird calls once into the night. Its sound is brief, carried across the darkness, then gone. Silence returns quickly. The child sleeps without awareness of any of this. In sleep, the day no longer exists as separate moments. It becomes something blended together. Heat and dust and walking and carrying and resting all soften into one long fading memory. His body remains here. But his mind has drifted far from the village. Near him, his father remains awake a little longer. Not fully alert. Not fully engaged. Just present. Sitting quietly in the dark, watching the sleeping village, listening to the faint sounds of night. Ancient parents often did this. Staying awake a little longer than their children. Not because there was anything urgent, but because stillness itself sometimes felt like responsibility too. A final watch before sleep. The father glances down at the child. He sees the slow rise and fall of his breathing. He sees the small exhaustion still present in the loosened posture. Nothing needs to be said. Everything is already understood. The child worked today. The child will work again. The child will grow within this rhythm, as so many children have before him. But for now, he only sleeps. Protected by night. Protected by closeness. Protected by the simple presence of family beside him. A warm wind passes gently through the village. It moves between walls and across rooftops. It touches skin and cloth and hair without waking anyone. It carries the faint smell of the river deeper into the land. Even the wind feels tired now, as if it has also moved too much during the day. The Nile continues its quiet path. It does not pause for sleep. It does not change for night. It simply flows. Always flowing. Always carrying water through the ancient land. Sometimes the river seems like it is the only thing that never truly rests. But even it feels quiet in the night. Its movement becomes less visible. Less noticeable. More like breathing than traveling. In the village, a final light flickers in a distant home. Then it fades. One last glow disappears into darkness. Now there is only night left. Deep, complete, and still. The child's sleep deepens further. His mind no longer holds images or thoughts in clear form. Everything becomes soft. Like drifting water. Like warm air. Like the slow movement of time itself without edges. Morning is far away now. It does not belong to this moment. This moment belongs only to rest. To quiet. To the gentle holding of night over sleeping earth. And as the Nile moves softly through the darkness, ancient Egypt rests beneath the stars, while a child raised in work slowly sinks deeper into peaceful sleep beside the steady presence of his father and the endless river that never forgets to flow. The night has settled into its deepest silence now. Not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of a world that has finally finished speaking for the day. The kind of silence that gathers slowly after hours of movement, after hours of heat, after hours of labor and small human sounds drifting through open air. Everything is still. The village sleeps. The fields sleep. The river keeps moving, but even it feels quieter beneath the weight of night. The child remains asleep beside his father, his body fully surrendered now to rest. There is no more tension in his small frame. No more awareness of dust, or hunger, or heat, or tiredness. Only sleep remains, steady and deep. His breathing is soft and even. In and out. In and out. Like a small rhythm blending into the larger rhythm of the night. Above him, the stars continue their long watch. They do not belong to work or labor. They do not belong to fields or workshops or homes. They simply belong to the sky, unchanged and distant, holding their quiet positions above everything that lives and sleeps below. Sometimes a faint breeze moves through the village again. It passes gently over rooftops, over sleeping bodies, over warm stones still holding the memory of the day. It moves without purpose, yet it touches everything briefly before disappearing again into darkness. The father remains awake a little longer. His posture is calm, but tiredness sits within him too. The kind of tiredness that does not leave when sitting still. The kind that only time and sleep can ease. He listens to the night. Not for danger. Not for anything specific. Just listening, as people sometimes do when the world becomes quiet enough to notice small sounds again. A distant rustle of reeds. A soft movement near the riverbank. A faint shift of air between walls. Life continues, even in rest. But it is gentle now. Almost invisible. The Nile flows steadily beyond the village. Its movement is slow and patient, like something that has learned to carry time without effort. Moonlight rests on its surface in thin paths that break and reform as water moves forward. It has seen so many nights like this. Nights of people sleeping. Nights of children growing. Nights of labor ending and beginning again. The river does not keep record in the way people do. It simply continues. The child turns slightly in his sleep. A small movement. Nothing more. His face remains peaceful, untouched by dreams that can be seen from the outside. Perhaps he is dreaming of nothing at all. Or perhaps of water. Or fields. Or the feeling of walking without weight. Sleep does not explain itself in ancient nights. It simply arrives. And stays. Around them, the village is now fully wrapped in darkness. No doors open. No footsteps cross the roads. No voices drift between homes. Only the soft presence of night remains. Even time feels slower here. Longer. Softer. As if the world itself is resting between one breath and the next. The father finally lowers himself fully to rest. His body leans back against the wall of the home. His eyes close. Not immediately into deep sleep, but into that quiet space just before it, where thoughts become fewer and lighter. Beside him, the child sleeps without awareness of anything at all. Together they remain in the same small space of earth and shelter, while the vast night stretches far beyond them in every direction. The wind moves once more. Then fades. The river continues. Then quiets again in appearance. The stars remain unchanged. And the land of ancient Egypt rests beneath them all, holding its workers, its families, its children, and its long history in a single shared moment of stillness that lasts through the deep hours before dawn begins to return. The deepest hours of the night settle over everything now. This is the time when the world feels most distant from itself, as if even sound has forgotten how to travel properly. The village is no longer just quiet. It feels suspended. Held gently in place by darkness and sleep. The child sleeps without movement now. His body has fully surrendered to rest in a way only exhaustion can bring. The long day has dissolved inside him. There is no memory of lifting, walking, carrying, or watching. Only stillness remains where effort once was. His breathing continues in a slow rhythm. Soft and steady. Almost blending into the silence around him. The father sits close, now also fully resting. His head has lowered slightly, his posture relaxed in the way of someone who no longer resists sleep. The night has finally taken him too, as it has taken everyone else in the village. All is still. Above them, the sky remains vast and unmoving. Stars continue their quiet presence. Some shine brighter, some dimmer, but none change in any way the eye can notice across these hours. They are distant and patient, like silent witnesses to everything below. The Nile continues to move through darkness. Its flow is not loud, not visible in detail, only suggested through faint reflections of light and the soft suggestion of motion beneath the moon. Water passes reeds. Water touches mud banks. Water continues forward without hesitation. The river does not need sleep. It simply continues. Along its edges, the land rests. Fields lie dark and unmoving. Crops wait patiently for morning light. Animals stand or lie in quiet shapes across the earth. Even the wind seems to have slowed, resting between moments of movement. The village feels like it has become part of the night itself. Not separate from it. Not resisting it. Just held within it. Inside one home, the child shifts slightly again in sleep. A small adjustment of comfort. His hand relaxes further against the ground. His face turns a fraction toward his father. Nothing else changes. Sleep remains unbroken. In this deep quiet, even time feels softer. Hours pass without marking themselves clearly. There are no sounds to divide them. No light to measure them. Only the steady continuation of night. Somewhere far beyond the village, a faint sound of water moving against stone reaches the shore. Then fades again. The Nile remains. The land remains. And everything else rests within that continuity. The father's breathing slows further as sleep deepens fully now. His body, which carried the weight of labor and responsibility through the day, finally releases itself into rest. His presence beside the child remains, even as awareness fades. Together they rest in the same small space of earth and shelter. Outside, the night continues to stretch on. Unhurried. Uninterrupted. Soft and complete. The kind of night that feels as though it could last forever, even though dawn is already waiting far beyond the horizon, still unseen, still distant, still patient. For now, there is only sleep. Only quiet. Only the gentle holding of the world beneath stars that never rush, and a river that never stops, carrying the ancient land through the darkness toward whatever morning will eventually return. The night begins to shift in the smallest, most quiet way. It is not something that can be clearly seen. There is no sudden change, no break in the darkness. But somewhere beyond the edge of awareness, the world starts turning towards something new. The deepest hours slowly pass. The child remains asleep, his breathing steady and unchanged. His body is fully at rest now, as if the entire long day has sunk into the ground beneath him and no longer belongs to him at all. There is no movement in his face. No tension in his hands. Only stillness. Beside him, the father rests as well, his presence calm and steady in the darkness. The closeness between them is simple, almost wordless, as it has been throughout the night. The village remains asleep. Homes are still. Doors are closed. Fireplaces are dark. Even the wind feels like it has become thinner, quieter, moving only when it needs to. Above, the sky holds its endless quiet. Stars remain fixed in their distant places. The night feels full of them, yet they do not crowd the sky. Instead they give it depth, like small points of memory scattered across a vast dark cloth. The Nile continues its slow passage through the land. Even now, even in the quietest hours, it does not stop. Water flows past reeds and stones and banks shaped by countless years. It carries the reflection of the night itself, broken into faint shifting lines of light. It is the same river that moved in the morning heat. The same river that shimmered under afternoon sun. The same river that watched the village grow tired and fall asleep. It never becomes something different. Only the world around it changes. The child turns his face slightly again in sleep, as if following something unseen in a dream that has no clear shape. His expression remains calm. Perhaps he is dreaming of walking again. Or of water moving. Or of fields where the wind feels gentle and cool. Or perhaps there is no dream at all, only deep rest where even images cannot form clearly. Ancient sleep often carried people far from the world without needing stories. Just rest. Just quiet. Just stillness. Outside, the land breathes slowly. Not in sound, but in presence. The earth holds the warmth of the day within it still. Stone and mud brick retain what the sun gave them. Even now, hours after sunset, they carry a faint memory of heat beneath their surfaces. The night air passes over them gently. The village exists inside this balance between what was and what is. What was? Heat, work, movement. What is? Silence, rest, stillness. And somewhere ahead, what will be? Morning again. But that is not here yet. It is far. Unseen. The father shifts slightly in his sleep, adjusting to comfort without waking. His arm remains close to the child. That closeness does not change. Protection in its simplest form. Presence without effort. The river continues its quiet journey. No one watches it now. No one needs to. It flows because it always has. And in its movement, it carries the night forward in a way that feels almost like breathing for the entire land. A slow inhale of darkness. A slow exhale toward morning. The sky begins to show the faintest suggestion of change, though it is still too early to call it dawn. The darkness is still strong. The stars still bright. But something subtle has begun to loosen. The night is nearing its final hours. And yet, the village does not know this. It only sleeps. Deeply. Completely. Softly. The child remains wrapped in that sleep, untouched by time, untouched by labor, untouched by anything beyond the quiet rhythm of breath and rest. And so the ancient world continues resting beneath endless sky and flowing river, holding its people in silence as the long night slowly, gently prepares to turn toward morning once again. The night has grown old now. Not in a way that can be seen clearly, but in the way silence begins to feel slightly different when it has lasted for many hours. It is still dark. It is still quiet. The stars are still present above the world. And yet something in the air begins to soften. The deepest part of night is slowly passing. The child sleeps on, unaware of any change. His breathing remains steady, gentle, unchanged by the movement of time around him. His small body rests fully, as if the earth itself is holding him for the night. There is no struggle in his sleep. No turning. Only rest. Beside him, the father also remains still. His sleep is deeper now, the kind that arrives only after long hours of labor and stillness together. The village has long since stopped asking anything from him. For now, everything is quiet. Even the Nile, though it continues moving, feels like it is moving more softly in the darkness. Water flows as it always does, but at night it seems less like a force and more like a presence. Something constant. Something steady. Something that does not need attention to continue existing. Reeds stand still along its banks. Boats rest where they were left. Nets hang without movement. The river holds them all in quiet patience. Across the village, there is no sound of work now. No footsteps. No voices. No tools. Only the faintest movements of wind that comes and goes without pattern. It touches walls, moves across rooftops, and passes through narrow paths between homes before disappearing again into the night. The world feels suspended. As if it is waiting. Not impatiently. Just gently. Waiting for the next shift of light that will come without announcement. Inside the home, the child shifts slightly once more, a small unconscious movement that fades quickly back into stillness. His face remains peaceful. His body relaxed in the deep comfort of sleep. There is something simple and complete about this moment. No tasks remain. No walking remains. No lifting remains. Only rest. In ancient lives shaped by long hours and physical work, sleep often came like this. Not interrupted. Not extended artificially. Just arriving when the body could no longer carry the weight of the day. And now the child is fully within it. Outside, the sky begins to hold a faint change again. The darkness is still strong, but it is no longer absolute. Somewhere beyond the horizon, time is slowly preparing the world for light. Not yet visible. Not yet present. Only approaching in the quietest possible way. The stars remain. But even they seem slightly softer now, as if the sky itself is holding them in a different way than before. The Nile continues forward. Always forward. It does not mark night or morning. It does not pause for rest. It simply moves through both, carrying the land through every hour without hesitation. Its surface reflects faint traces of the sky, broken and drifting, never fixed in one place. The father's breathing is slow and even now. Deep sleep holds him fully. There is no awareness left in him of the night's passage. Only rest. Only stillness. Around him, the village remains wrapped in silence. Homes hold sleeping families. Courtyards are empty. Paths are untouched. Even the smallest sounds of life seem to have withdrawn into the background of the world. The night is nearing its final stretch, though nothing in it rushes toward that ending. It simply continues, as it always has, moving forward without urgency. The child sleeps through all of it. Through the long darkness. Through the slow movement of time. Through the quiet presence of the river and the land and the sky above. And in this deep, uninterrupted stillness, ancient Egypt rests as one living, breathing quiet world beneath stars that slowly begin to wait for the return of morning light, even as sleep continues to hold everything gently in place. The night grows thinner now, though it still holds the world in darkness. It is the kind of darkness that feels older than earlier hours, as if it has already carried too much silence and is now gently releasing it, one soft moment at a time. The child remains asleep, untouched by any awareness of this change. His body is still small against the vastness of night. Still warm beneath the cool air that moves through the village. His breathing continues in its steady rhythm. Nothing interrupts it. Nothing disturbs it. Beside him, his father sleeps as well. Both of them held within the same quiet moment, the same shared rest after a long day that no longer feels like it belongs to them. Around them, the village is still. But something subtle begins to shift in the edges of the sky. The stars remain visible, yet their presence feels slightly less sharp than before. The darkness is still deep, but it is no longer complete. A faint sense of distance begins to open between night and what comes next. The Nile continues its steady movement. It has not changed. It does not change. But in these hours before dawn, its surface sometimes seems to carry a different feeling. A kind of quiet anticipation that exists only in the mind of those who watch it. Water flows through narrow bends. It passes reeds that have stood through the entire night. It touches shorelines shaped by countless earlier nights, just like this one. The river remembers nothing, yet it holds everything in motion. Across the village, the silence remains unbroken. Homes are closed in darkness. Families remain gathered in sleep. The air is still, except for the soft passing of wind that drifts without direction. It moves across rooftops, then over empty roads, then toward the river, and disappears again. Inside the home, the child shifts slightly, then becomes still once more. There is no sign of waking. Only the gentle movement of sleep continuing without interruption. His face rests peacefully. There is no trace of the long day now. No sign of labor. No memory of heat or dust. Only rest remains visible. The father beside him breathes more deeply now, as sleep reaches its quietest depth. The kind of sleep that only arrives when the body no longer holds anything back from the day. Time continues moving, but it does so quietly, without marking itself clearly. Minutes blend together. Hours soften. The world remains suspended between darkness and something that has not yet arrived. But it is coming closer. Very slowly. The horizon holds a faint suggestion of change now, almost impossible to notice unless one has been watching for a long time. The sky is still dark, but the darkness has begun to feel less absolute, less total. The night is reaching its final stage. Not ending yet, but preparing. The river continues, unchanged. The land continues, unchanged. The village continues, unchanged. And within it all, the child continues sleeping, carried gently through the last deep hours of night as ancient Egypt waits quietly beneath the sky for the first trace of returning light that has not yet appeared, but is already on its way. The final stretch of night settles softly over the land. It is not a different darkness, not something new, but a quieter version of what has already been here for hours. The kind of darkness that feels like it is remembering how to leave, even though it has not yet begun to do so. The village remains asleep. Everything is still. The child continues resting beside his father, his small body unmoving except for the gentle rise and fall of breath. The long day has faded completely from him now. There is no weight left in his limbs, no memory of heat or dust or effort. Only sleep remains. Deep and unbroken. Above them, the sky holds its final hours of night. The stars are still there, but they feel more distant now, as if the sky itself is preparing to close them away for a while. Not disappearing. Just waiting quietly behind the coming light. The Nile moves through this moment with the same calm persistence it has always known. Water passes silently along its course, touching reeds, shaping mud banks, reflecting faint traces of the sky that is slowly changing. It does not hurry. It does not pause. It continues. Across the village, nothing stirs. Homes remain closed in darkness. Families sleep close together, bodies warmed by shared presence and woven cloth. Even dreams, if they come, seem to rest more than move. The wind is almost gone now. Only a faint trace passes through the streets, barely enough to be noticed. It touches the walls gently and then disappears again into the stillness. Inside the home, the child's breathing deepens slightly, then returns to its steady rhythm. There is a calmness in his sleep now that belongs only to the deepest hours of rest. His father remains beside him, equally still. Time continues its quiet passage. Not marked. Not counted. Just flowing forward in the way that night always does when nothing interrupts it. And then, somewhere beyond the horizon, something begins to change in a way too subtle to name. The darkness is still present. The stars are still visible. But the sky is no longer entirely unchanged. A faint softness begins to gather at the edge of the world. Not light yet. Not morning yet. Only the earliest suggestion that night is nearing its end. The kind of change that no one in the village sees, because everyone is asleep. The kind of change that only the sky and the river seem to notice. The Nile continues its endless movement, carrying reflections of the dim sky across its surface. The land remains quiet beneath it. Fields rest. Trees stand still. Roads are empty. And the village sleeps on, fully held within the final quiet hours before dawn, as ancient Egypt waits in stillness for the moment when night will finally begin to loosen its grip and the world will slowly, gently return to light. The last part of the night feels almost weightless now. Not because anything has changed quickly, but because everything has slowly softened into a deeper kind of stillness. The darkness is still present, yet it no longer feels as dense as before. It feels thinner, as if it has been gently stretched across the land and is beginning to wear away at its edges. The child sleeps through it all. He does not sense the shift. His body remains fully at rest, folded into the quiet warmth of sleep. The long day has long since dissolved from him. Even the memory of movement is gone now, replaced only by stillness. His breathing continues in its steady rhythm. Soft. Even. Unbroken. Beside him, his father remains asleep as well, both of them held within the same quiet space of night. Around them, the village is unchanged on the surface. Homes are still, doors are closed, and the streets are empty. But the feeling of the night is no longer the same as it was earlier. Something subtle has begun to open. Not yet light. Not yet dawn. Only a faint loosening at the edge of darkness. Above, the stars remain, but they no longer feel quite as close as they did in the deepest hours. They seem slightly less sharp, as if the sky itself is preparing to let them fade. The Nile continues its movement through this quiet transition. Water flows past reeds and riverbanks shaped by countless days and countless nights. It reflects the dim sky above, carrying fragments of darkness and the earliest suggestion of change within its surface. The river never pauses. It never waits. It simply carries the world forward, even when everything else is still. In the village, there is no sound of waking yet. No movement in homes. No voices returning. Only sleep remains across every doorway and courtyard. And yet the air itself begins to feel different. The stillness is still there, but it is no longer absolute. A faint softness moves through it, as if the night is exhaling for the final time before releasing its hold. The child turns slightly in his sleep, then becomes still again. His face remains calm. There is no sign of disturbance, no sign of awareness. Only deep rest. His father breathes slowly beside him, unchanged, steady in sleep. Time continues, but more gently now. Less like passing. More like easing forward. The horizon holds a quiet suggestion of change, so faint it is almost impossible to distinguish from darkness itself. But it is there. A thinning at the edge of night. A soft preparation for what will come. The stars remain in place, but they no longer feel like they are fully in charge of the sky. Something is shifting beneath them. Something patient and inevitable. The Nile moves through it all, carrying reflection and silence together, as it always has. The land remains still. The village remains asleep. And the child remains within that sleep, untouched by time and unaware of change, resting through the final deep hours of night as ancient Egypt waits in quiet stillness for the first breath of morning that has not yet arrived, but is already beginning to gather beyond the horizon. The night is almost finished now, though nothing in it makes a sound to announce that fact. It simply becomes softer, quieter in a different way than before. The kind of quiet that feels less like holding stillness, and more like releasing it slowly into something new. The child remains asleep, fully lost within rest. His body does not react to the shift in the sky. He is too deep in sleep to notice anything beyond it. His breathing continues. Slow. Steady. Gentle. Beside him, his father sleeps as well, their closeness unchanged, their presence together forming a small circle of warmth within the larger stillness of the night. Across the village, everything remains quiet. Homes are still dark. Streets are empty. Courtyards hold no movement. But the sky above them is no longer exactly the same sky that held them earlier in the night. There is a faint softening at the edge of the horizon. A suggestion of change so delicate it almost cannot be named. Not light yet. Not dawn. Only the first easing of darkness. The stars remain visible, but they no longer feel as sharp or distant. They seem to float in a sky that is slowly becoming lighter in feeling, even if not yet in color. The Nile continues its endless movement. It flows through the last hours of night as it has flowed through every hour before it. Water moves past reeds, past mud banks, past places where fishermen worked and children walked only hours earlier. It carries no memory, but it holds continuity. A steady presence beneath everything that changes above it. In the village, silence continues to rest over every home. But now there is a slight difference in that silence. It feels less heavy. Less complete. As if something within it has begun to loosen. The child shifts faintly in his sleep, then settles again. There is no awareness in him of anything beyond rest. The world outside does not reach him here. Only sleep holds him now. Deep and unbroken. His father remains still beside him, equally quiet, equally held within the same deep calm. Time moves forward, but it no longer feels like something passing strongly or distinctly. It feels like something easing gently into another form. The horizon holds that faint suggestion of change a little more clearly now. Still not light. Still not morning. But closer than before. A soft thinning of darkness at the edge of everything. The river reflects this subtle shift without acknowledging it. Its surface carries the sky as it always does, showing only what is present, never what is coming. The land remains still. Fields are quiet. Trees are motionless. The village is entirely asleep. And within that sleep, the child continues resting, unaware that the night is nearing its final breath, unaware that somewhere beyond the edge of darkness the first quiet shape of morning is beginning to form, waiting patiently to arrive over ancient Egypt when sleep finally begins to loosen its hold on the world. The night now feels like it is holding its final breath. Not in a sudden way. Not in a way that breaks silence. But in a way so slow and gentle that it almost cannot be separated from stillness itself. Everything remains asleep. The child lies quietly beside his father, unchanged in posture, unchanged in breath. His sleep is deep enough that even the softest changes in the world do not reach him. There is only rest within him now. Nothing else. Around him, the village is still wrapped in darkness. Homes remain closed. Roads remain empty. Courtyards hold only shadow and memory of movement from long ago in the day. But above the sleeping world, the sky has begun to shift in a way that cannot be fully seen, only felt. The darkness is still present. The stars are still visible. And yet the night no longer feels absolute. A faint openness gathers at the edge of the horizon. So subtle it seems almost imagined. Not light. Not color. Only a loosening. A soft preparation for what will come next. The Nile continues to move through it all. It flows beneath the sky that is changing and the land that is still asleep. Its water passes reeds and mud banks and quiet shores where no one stands now. It reflects the faintest suggestion of transition, though it does not change itself. The river does not know endings or beginnings. It only continues. In the village, nothing stirs yet. No doors open. No footsteps return. No voices rise. But the silence is no longer the same silence that filled the deepest hours of night. It feels lighter now. As if the world is beginning to let go of sleep, even while still fully within it. Inside the home, the child remains motionless. His breathing is steady, unchanged, flowing in and out like a soft rhythm that has become part of the night itself. His father rests beside him in the same quiet stillness. Time moves forward again, but more gently now. Less like darkness deepening. More like darkness preparing to fade. The sky above the horizon grows faintly less heavy. Still dark, still night, but touched by something distant and approaching. Something that cannot yet be called morning, but belongs to it. The stars remain, but their presence feels softer, as if the sky is slowly loosening its hold on them. The river continues its endless journey, carrying reflections of this final transition across its surface without pause or concern. The land remains still. The village remains asleep. And the child remains within that sleep, untouched by the movement of time around him, resting through the final quiet moments of night as ancient Egypt stands at the very edge of dawn, waiting for the first light that has not yet arrived, but is already beginning to rise beyond the horizon. The final quiet of night stretches thin now, like fabric gently pulled toward the first shape of morning. Still, nothing changes suddenly. The world remains calm. The village remains asleep. The child continues resting beside his father, his small body unchanged, fully carried by sleep. His breathing remains slow and steady, the same rhythm that has followed him through the entire long night. There is no awareness within him of time passing. Only rest. Only softness. Only silence. Above him, the sky holds the last deep darkness, but it is no longer complete. The edges of night have begun to soften in a way that cannot be clearly seen, only sensed. The horizon carries a faint, almost invisible thinning, as if darkness itself is beginning to grow lighter in weight. The stars still shine, but they feel more distant now. Not fading yet. Just waiting. The Nile continues its movement through this final stretch of night. Water flows quietly past riverbanks, carrying the reflection of sky and silence together. It moves without urgency, as it always does, even as the world around it begins to shift toward morning. The river does not change with time. It only carries time forward. Across the village, stillness remains. But it is a stillness that feels slightly different now. Less heavy than before. Less deep. As if sleep itself is beginning to loosen its grip on the land, even though no one has yet awakened. Inside the home, the child shifts faintly in his sleep, then becomes still again. His face remains peaceful, untouched by dreams that can be seen from outside. There is only quiet rest in him. His father sleeps beside him in the same calm. Time moves forward in a way that is almost imperceptible now. Not marked by sound. Not marked by movement. Only by a gentle change in feeling across the world. The horizon grows subtly lighter in presence, though not in color. It is still night, still darkness, but a darkness that no longer feels absolute. Something is preparing to arrive, slowly and patiently, beyond sight. The Nile reflects this change in the only way it can, by continuing its steady flow beneath a sky that is beginning to transform. Its surface carries faint traces of shifting darkness and the earliest suggestion of return. The land remains still. Fields rest in silence. Trees stand motionless. Homes remain closed in sleep. And the child continues to sleep as well, unaware of the slow turning of the world above him, held gently within the final breath of night as ancient Egypt waits in stillness for the very first whisper of dawn that is not yet visible, but already moving closer with every passing moment. The night is almost no longer night in the way it was before. It still looks the same at a glance. Dark sky. Quiet village. Sleeping homes. Still stars hanging above the world. But something has changed in its feeling. It is softer now. Lighter. Like a long-held silence that is finally beginning to loosen its grip. The child sleeps on, fully unaware. His body remains warm against the coolness of the early hours. His breathing has not changed. It continues in the same calm rhythm that has carried him through the deepest part of night. In him, there is no awareness of anything outside rest. Only sleep. Beside him, his father remains still as well, both of them held together in the same quiet space, the same small shelter of earth and brick, while the world outside continues its slow transformation. Above, the sky remains dark, but not unchanged. The horizon holds a faint suggestion of something new. Not yet color. Not yet light. Only a soft lifting at the edge of darkness, as if the night is gently preparing to open. The stars still shine, but they feel more distant now. Their presence is less sharp, less defined. They seem to float in a sky that is slowly becoming less heavy. The Nile continues its steady movement through this final part of night. Water passes along its ancient path, touching reeds and mud banks shaped by countless days before this one. It reflects the sky above in faint, shifting patterns that never stay still. The river does not know transition. It only flows. In the village, everything remains quiet. But the silence is no longer the same silence that filled the deepest hours of darkness. It has changed slightly, becoming more open, more fragile, as if it is ready to dissolve into something else. Inside the home, the child shifts almost imperceptibly again, then settles. His sleep remains deep and undisturbed. There is no sign of waking. Only rest continues within him. Time moves forward now with a different feeling. Less like darkness deepening. More like darkness easing away. The horizon is now faintly brighter in presence, though still not visible as light. It is only a sense, a subtle awareness that something beyond the sky is approaching, slowly and without sound. The Nile reflects this quiet transition in its own way. Its surface carries the last traces of night while holding the earliest suggestion of morning, both existing together in the same moving water. The land remains still. Fields rest in silence. Trees do not move. Homes remain closed in sleep. And the child continues to sleep as well, fully held within the final stretch of night as ancient Egypt waits in complete stillness for the first moment of dawn that has not yet arrived, but is now so close that even the darkness itself seems to be gently preparing to let it come. The night is almost finished now, though it still holds the world in its quiet embrace. Everything remains still, but stillness itself feels different. It is no longer the deep, heavy stillness of midnight. It is a lighter stillness, one that seems to be slowly preparing to loosen and fade. The child sleeps without change. His breathing is calm and steady, like a small tide moving in and out without interruption. His body rests fully against the ground and the warmth beside him. There is no movement in his face now, no sign of anything beyond rest. Sleep holds him completely. Beside him, his father remains asleep as well, both of them sharing the same quiet space as the night begins its final transition. Above them, the sky is still dark, but not unchanged. The horizon holds a faint softness now, so subtle it almost feels like imagination. Darkness is still present, still covering the land, but it no longer feels absolute. It feels thinner, as if it is beginning to dissolve at its edges. The stars are still visible, yet they seem more distant than before. Their brightness feels slightly softer, as if the sky is gently letting go of them without disturbance. The Nile continues its steady movement through this final stretch of night. Water flows along its ancient path, passing reeds and quiet banks, reflecting the sky in broken, shifting lines that never stay still for long. The river does not hurry. It does not pause. It simply continues forward, carrying night and the first hint of morning together in the same flowing motion. Across the village, silence remains. But it is no longer the same silence that filled the deepest hours. It is lighter now, more open, as if something within it is preparing to change. No one stirs yet. No doors open. No voices return. Only sleep remains across every home and courtyard. Inside the small dwelling, the child shifts faintly once more, then becomes still again. His sleep remains deep and unbroken. There is no awareness of anything beyond it. Only rest. Only quiet. Only warmth. Time moves forward now in a way that feels gentler than before. Not marked by darkness, but by a soft easing of it. The world is no longer sinking into night, it is beginning to rise out of it. The horizon grows a little more open in feeling, though still not visible as light. It is a presence more than a sight, a quiet suggestion that something is approaching from beyond the edge of darkness. The Nile reflects this change in its own quiet way, holding both the memory of night and the earliest breath of morning within the same flowing surface. The land remains still. Fields rest in silence. Trees stand unmoving. Homes remain closed in sleep. And the child continues to sleep as well, fully wrapped in the final, quiet moments of night as ancient Egypt waits in calm stillness for the first true sign of dawn that has not yet arrived, but is now so close that even the darkness feels as if it is beginning to gently release the world into morning. The final edge of night rests softly over the land now. It is no longer deep, heavy darkness. It is something thinner, something quieter, as if the night has already begun to loosen its hold but has not yet fully stepped away. Everything remains still. The child sleeps on beside his father, unchanged, untouched by the slow turning of time above him. His breathing remains steady, calm, and soft. His body is completely at rest now, held gently by sleep that has lasted through the entire long night. There is no awareness within him of anything beyond this moment. Only rest. Beside him, his father sleeps as well, both of them together within the same small shelter, sharing the same quiet space beneath the fading night sky. Above them, the sky is still dark, but it no longer feels complete in its darkness. At the far edge of the horizon, something subtle continues to gather. Not light yet. Not color. Only a soft lifting, as if the world is beginning to remember brightness. The stars are still present, but they feel more distant now. Their glow is no longer as sharp against the sky. They seem to float in a vastness that is slowly becoming lighter, even before it can be seen. The Nile continues its quiet movement through this final stretch of night. Water flows steadily past reeds and riverbanks shaped by countless days before this one. It reflects the sky in faint, shifting fragments that change slowly as the night begins to loosen. The river does not change its rhythm. It only carries everything forward. Across the village, silence remains, but it feels different now. Lighter. More open. As if the night itself is no longer holding the world tightly, but beginning to release it gently. No one stirs yet. No doors open. No voices return. But something in the stillness feels expectant, though nothing can yet be seen. Inside the home, the child remains fully asleep. There is a faint, almost imperceptible movement in his breathing, but nothing more. His sleep is deep enough that the world outside no longer reaches him. Only rest continues. Time moves forward now with a quiet softness. The darkness is not growing deeper anymore. Instead, it feels as if it is slowly thinning, preparing for something beyond itself. The horizon holds that same delicate suggestion of change. Not visible, not bright, but present like a breath held just before release. The Nile carries this transition without pause, its surface holding both the memory of night and the earliest sense of what comes after. The land remains still. Fields lie in silence. Trees do not move. Homes remain closed in sleep. And the child continues to sleep as well, fully held within the final, delicate breath of night as ancient Egypt waits in complete stillness for the very first arrival of dawn that has not yet come, but is now so close that the entire world feels as if it is gently, quietly preparing to wake. The night is now so thin that it feels almost like a memory of itself. It still covers the land, still holds the village, still rests over the river and the fields, but it no longer feels heavy or deep. It feels like something gently fading, without resistance, without sound. Everything remains asleep. The child lies quietly beside his father, fully carried by rest. His body is still, his breathing calm and even. There is no movement in him that belongs to the world outside sleep. Only softness remains. Beside him, his father continues sleeping as well, both of them held together in the same small space of warmth and shelter, while the world around them slowly changes in ways no one can yet see. Above them, the sky remains dark, but it is no longer the same darkness that ruled the earlier hours. It feels lighter at the edges now. Not brighter. Not illuminated. Just less complete. As if the sky is beginning to open itself in the smallest possible way. The stars still exist, but they no longer feel as close or as bright as before. Their presence seems to soften, blending more gently into the sky rather than standing sharply against it. The Nile continues to flow through this final breath of night. Water moves with quiet certainty past reeds and banks, reflecting what little remains of darkness and the faint suggestion of what lies beyond it. The river does not change its pace, even as the world around it begins to shift. It simply continues forward. Across the village, silence remains, but it is now fragile in a different way. Not heavy, not deep, but light enough that it feels as if it could dissolve at any moment without warning. Still, nothing stirs. No doors open. No footsteps return. No voices rise. Only sleep remains across every home and courtyard. Inside the small home, the child shifts slightly, then becomes still again. His sleep remains uninterrupted, deep and calm. There is no awareness of the sky, no awareness of the river, no awareness of time. Only rest holds him. Time moves forward now with the softness that belongs to transition itself. The night is no longer growing, it is gently unwinding. The world is no longer sinking into darkness, it is beginning, almost imperceptibly, to rise out of it. At the far edge of the horizon, something subtle continues to gather. Not light yet. Not dawn yet. Only a quiet opening, like the first breath before waking. The Nile carries this change in silence, its surface holding both night and the earliest promise of morning in the same flowing movement. The land remains still. Fields rest in silence. Trees stand unmoving. Homes remain closed in sleep. And the child continues to sleep as well, fully embraced by the final, delicate thinning of night as ancient Egypt waits in complete stillness for the very first moment of dawn that has not yet arrived, but is now so close that even the darkness itself seems ready to let it go. The night does not end all at once. It fades. Slowly. Softly. Like breath leaving a sleeping body. The child is still asleep beside his father, held in the final warmth of darkness. His face is calm, untouched by anything beyond rest. There is no movement in him now that belongs to the day, only the quiet depth of sleep that carried him through the long hours of night. Around him, the village remains still. But the stillness is different now. It is no longer the stillness of deep night. It is the stillness just before return. The sky at the horizon begins to soften in the faintest way, as if the darkness itself is becoming thinner, lighter, almost transparent. Not yet light. Not yet morning. Only the quiet beginning of release. The Nile continues its steady movement, unchanged, flowing through night and toward dawn without ever pausing to mark the difference between them. Its waters carry the last reflections of stars and the earliest sense of approaching day in the same quiet current. Fields remain asleep. Homes remain closed. Trees stand in silence. But the world no longer feels fully held by night. It feels like it is waiting to open its eyes. Inside the small home, the child breathes slowly, deeply, one final time in the hold of night. His father rests beside him. Both are still. Both are safe in the quiet before waking. And then, somewhere beyond the edge of the horizon, the first gentle suggestion of light begins to gather, not sudden, not bright, but patient and soft, like the world remembering how to begin again. Night loosens its grip. And ancient Egypt, still and quiet, slowly turns toward morning.